Hey everyone, this is Xanthi and welcome to my channel Into Pieces. Now today I'm going to talk about the Australian Nationals, which happened just recently, and what a ride it was. So it was held in Melbourne, which is on the south east coast of Australia, and that's about 2,703 kilometers away from where I live on the west coast of Australia. So I traveled quite far to be there. So I'm just going to go over my experience with it. Now I've got my laptop here on the side because I've got quite a few notes that I need to refer to. But I'm going to start off with the previous year. I did go to Nationals, and they were again in Melbourne, and I competed in the solo, the pairs, and the teams race. So there was the three races then, and I went with my partner Marcus, and he and I competed in the pairs together. And I competed in the teams with him and my brother-in-law, who's not really a puzzler, extremely casual puzzler, but he was a local. So he took us down there to the venue. And also my sister was supposed to be in our team, but she was ill, and very much at the last minute, I had to find a fourth member, and luckily another local, Sarah, she agreed to join us, and I knew Sarah from basically online on Instagram, and so yeah, we had a lot of fun. With the solo event, it was the Amy Stewart's Sweet Shop, which I was not thrilled about. I mean, I love Amy Stewart, and it's a very colourful jigsaw puzzle, but it's extremely detailed. I had done it twice before. I did it as a pair with Marcus in our state competition, and I also practiced it solo at home right before I went to national. So that was lucky, but yeah, it was tough. For the pairs, we had New York postcard, which I had done. I think it was the very last puzzle I did before practicing at home before I went, so that was lucky. And the team puzzle for last year was I think it was called Beautiful Mushrooms by Nathaniel Mortensen, and it is gorgeous. It's a really great puzzle to do as a team because it's got some very distinct areas that everyone can work on. So it was a fun event. They had like a swap table. There was sprint, puzzle sprints, where I think you had like a small puzzle and you try to do it as quickly as possible, and you mark your time there and see who won. So that was fun to do. And also that was where I got to meet the three-quarters of the Aussie All-Stars, which is basically our top Australian speed puzzlers. And so that was quite a thrill for me. I was very much a fangirl moment, and I got to meet lots of other people as well while I was there, that mostly people that I've interacted online on Instagram, and so other people who were just like casual puzzlers or really into speed puzzlers who were particularly fast. So I really enjoyed the experience, so I thought I'll go again this year if I could. So that was, I think it was around early December. So it sort of, this year's one happened a very similar time of the year, late November, early December. And like I said, again, it was in Melbourne. So, and it was at the same venue, which was a sports centre. And I'm not talking about just one big sports, and had like all sorts of buildings in this area, sort of in the southern part of the city. So it wasn't that far from the city centre. But the difference is that this time it was over 2 days instead of the 1 day, which I was excited about. Obviously, if you're going to fly that far, it's good to have like an event that's going to last more than 1 day. I also found it extremely tiring trying to pack everything in just a 1 day. But anyway, it was turned out to be a great idea, and hopefully in the future again they'll be at least 2 days long. So it was over Saturday and Sunday, so it was over the weekend. So the difference this time is that, well, again, they had the teams race and they had the pairs race, but with the solo, this time they had 2 qualifiers on the first day and then the solo final on the second day. So that was different. But what also was different is that they handled the pairs a bit differently, in that instead of doing one 500-piece puzzle, it was 2 500-piece puzzles back to back. So that was another interesting twist to it. The actual layout of the competition area was quite different. Last year, everything was sort of set up where there was a stage down at one end, and we had like rows of tables and chairs sort of orientated towards the stage, and the stage was sort of in the what you would imagine is the width of the area, and this time it was done through the length. So we had sort of 2 areas on either side where people could sit and watch, spectators. They're tiered. This time they only had one side tiered, and I think that was plenty of seating there for spectators. The biggest difference I noticed was that this time they used an upstairs area, which was glass panelled, so people upstairs could actually look down into the main area. And upstairs it was some stalls, and in the previous year they had a few things happening in the main race area towards the back, and it got very squeezy and very congested, so wasn't a fan of that. So I'm glad that they moved these other things upstairs. So there were stalls. They were selling mostly jigsaw related items. There was Jigsaws Anonymous, who are a group here in Perth, and they sell a lot of merchandise. And I picked up a few things up at the stores, including from Felicity Puzzles. I picked up this very cute little pen holder. She had a lot of, obviously, box stands and things that were specifically related to puzzling, like scoops and things like that, but a few of these little cute guys. So I grabbed this one for Marcus, and yeah, I thought it was quite cute. And also they had this Kawaii life, and she had quite a lot of puzzle related jewelry, particularly earrings. And I actually don't have pierced ears, and I mentioned that, and I was thinking, oh, I would love to have some themed, jigsaw themed earrings. And she had their clip-ons, and so I picked up my earrings, and she took off the actual hook bits and put on clip-ons for me right there on the spot. So I was very happy with that. And also up there was Bonza and Ben. I met Ben from Bonza, and he very kindly gifted me one of the puzzles, and it's this 100-piece one, and I picked the Australian animals because that one appealed to me the most. But there were plenty of other themes, and he had a little competition going there where people could race and to see how quickly they could do it. And so I had a lot of fun doing that. So, but I will do a proper review on Bonza at a later date, so stay tuned for that. So yeah, also up there we had Also, there was some puzzle chess going on, and there was a donation table. Basically, it was like a swap table, but I mean, if you just didn't want to take anything, you just put puzzles there. Quite excited though to see that the Roiter sisters had a swap table up there. Now, if you're not familiar with the Roiter sisters, they are twins from Seattle, they told me, and you would have seen them at Worlds, at the US Nationals, at the Winter Carnival in Minnesota, in USA. If you're into speed puzzling and you watch a lot of speed puzzling sort of events and competitions, you would definitely have seen them. So I was quite excited to meet them and to have a chat. I guess you could consider them to be puzzle royalty, really. Yeah, they were lovely. Had a bit of a chat. It turned out that they were, doing a trip across Australia, and they had been to Perth, and they saw the quackers. So they had brought boxes and boxes, amazing, of these puzzles that were like American brands that we might have difficulty finding here in Australia, and they wanted to swap with Australian brands, stuff that is kind of difficult for them to get in America. So I thought that was a great idea. Unfortunately, I was quite limited by luggage space to bring any puzzles to do the swap. So I could not participate in that, but that's fine because I grabbed myself, they bought a few stickers and badges and other little trinkets that people could just take. And so there was a peace talk, a little sticker there, which I grabbed. And as you can see, I'm wearing my Peace Talk t-shirt. Now, Peace Talk, if you don't know, is, I think, one of my favorite puzzling podcasts. They concentrate a lot on speed puzzling and speed, sort of the elite level speed puzzlers and, the events and things. And I've been listening to them for a while. It's run and hosted by Rob Shields from, I think he's in Portland, if I can remember correctly. So yes, occasionally he gives away these great t-shirts, and I really wanted one. And he was going to Worlds. He was going to be, giving them to people there. Unfortunately, I couldn't go to Worlds, but turned out that one of the Aussie All-Stars, Rihanna, she agreed to meet up with Rob, grab a t-shirt for me, and bring it to the Australian Nationals, where I met up with her and got it off her. So in a very roundabout way, this t-shirt went from the US to Spain to Australia, East Coast, and now is back with me on the Australian West Coast, and I'm wearing it with pride. I absolutely love it, and it's a gorgeous t-shirt. So that's another great thing I picked up at this this event. Now, while I was at Nationals, yeah, I went there to race, obviously, and to do the best that I could. But I was also there for like the social aspect, and I got to meet a lot of people, and it was great. I am an introvert, but when I get passionate about something like puzzling and I get excited when I see someone that I recognize from social media, I'll go up to you and say hello. So that's what I did, and people were very gracious to have this stranger coming up to them and saying hello. But I was especially pleased when people approached me and were saying nice things about this YouTube channel and words of encouragement about it. So that meant the world to me. And thank you so much if you did that. I really appreciate it. One of the people, speaking about YouTube, one of the people that I met was Peta. And she has a YouTube channel called Puzzles with Peta, which I subscribe to and I watch. And she lives in New South Wales. So it was great to meet someone who's doing sort of the similar things to me. So yeah, that was nice. And of course, meeting the Roiter sisters was very exciting. And again, seeing the Aussie All-Stars there. I still haven't met the fourth one, Hannah. Still have not met her. I don't know. It's just like this legend, this urban legend. I saw her, but I just didn't get the opportunity to meet her, but oh well. So yeah, that was the social aspect was really nice. So let's move on to day one. Now, day one started off with the solo qualifier. So solo qualifier A, it was. And during this, I had filed in with everyone, got up on the sort of stands there to watch, and to my I wouldn't say disappointment, but to my concern, it turned out that the puzzle used was a dolk. Now, if you're not familiar with dolk, the artwork is what I would call surreal. It's not really fantasy. It doesn't have really fantasy elements. It's more surrealist art called Boreal, and that's like the snow leopard one. Now, everyone had 2 hours to complete this puzzle in this race, but only the top 150 would actually qualify to go into the solo final. So yeah, now this one, I found it to be colorful, but the actual image itself doesn't appeal. In fact, surreal artwork doesn't really appeal to me. I know dolk is quite popular with some people, but to me, it's just not my thing. I think it is a interesting puzzle to speed puzzle, but yeah, there's a lot of fur there. Now, like I said, it is beautiful. The background of it is gorgeous. I was not in this round, but I managed to get myself a swap and managed to get a copy, which I brought home to do, but more about that later. So I started watching from the spectator area, and then I was approached and told to get my butt down to the commentary table, because it looked like I was going to be commentating. And I was commentating with Heidi, who also has a YouTube channel called All Things Speed Puzzling, and I will put a link to her YouTube channel in the description, along with Peta's, who I mentioned earlier. And yeah, I had an idea that maybe I would be doing some commentating, but I didn't know when. So I was sat there with my snack, and then suddenly, oh, it's go time. So I hurried on down, and you will see I'm wearing headphones, but the headphones didn't work for some reason. I did keep them on because they sort of blocked out a lot of other noise, which was good. So yeah, we are just thrown right into it and go. And we were I brought up the chat from YouTube on my phone, so we could try and follow that while we were trying to follow the action. And I'll tell you something, the commentators table is great because it's right at the front there. You're right near the fast people. You can see what's going on, and yeah, it's a great spot. And I was really you know, I felt privileged that I could do that. I'm a very average speed puzzler, but I, do like to, talk, as you can tell. It took me a while to sort of get into the swing of things, because again, I wasn't sort of prepared. But then, I got into it, and there was a lot of camera crews around during the solo A, and some reporting going on. And then later on, I discovered that, yes, I appeared along with Heidi at our table there, on the news, the TV news. So that was something I wasn't expecting. So yes, but it was there was interviews going on. I think there was at least 2 channels there. So But getting back to the Boreal, the puzzle itself. So the fastest finish for it was done in 43 minutes and 3 seconds. And the winner was Sarah Lorenzini, and I hope I pronounced that correctly. But there wasn't really much in it between second and third. They both finished around the 45-minute mark. I'm not really surprised that the times was a little bit more. In fact, I was surprised that, you know, it didn't take longer, because this was not an easy puzzle to do. The fact that a dog had appeared, yes, made me a bit nervous, because I was in the solo B qualifier, which happened soon after. So I had a bit of a break after the commentating to go and pull myself together and get ready for my round. And yeah, no surprises in my round. It was a dog, and it was Hope. It was, now I have not done any of the dogs at all. I had seen them. I think they're only just coming onto the market here in Australia. But these weren't ones that I would have bought for myself, because again, like I said, I don't really like surrealist art. So I wasn't thrilled when I saw it. I mean, you know, it's fine, but there's a hell of a lot of red and orange, and the brown mane of the lion. I knew that was going to be tough right from the get-go. So it was interesting though, because looking back on the live stream, there was a shot of someone who had basically done pretty much all of the background, the red and orange background, and then was working on, you know, the animals. And that is not the way I tackled it, and I thought that would actually be quite difficult. There is a bit of there is subtle gradients and like bits of clouds in the sky for that puzzle, but there was a bit of glare from the lighting above, and I found myself having to shift, you know, my head around to sort of try and avoid it. So I found actually doing the background colors there just a bit difficult because of that glare. So I found myself gravitating towards the zebra and the globe underneath the zebra. And then there was the dotty looking rhinosaur as well, and the elephant sort of caught my eye. There was this bit of yellow here of this sun, so that's what I was first drawn to. I think I did the face of the lion, but I really like I think the rest of the lion's fur and the mane and the paws and that came towards the end. But I actually finished with some of the background, because yeah, that was I found a bit more difficult. Now, interesting about the dog is that it's square shaped, so I think that threw a few people, and also the piece shapes were a bit different. There was a few that abutted each other, a bit like you see in an Aduka. They don't fully interlock. And then I don't know if you other people were surprised of there's sort of like a large sort of what looks like a double piece in towards the middle of the puzzle. So I think the different piece cut, the square shape, might have thrown people off the way that, you know, them getting a round Ravensburger puzzle that we got in the West Australian and the state, some of the other states as well got on their competition. So anything out of the norm of a rectangular might throw a few people off, and I think it did in this case. The winner was Brie Ribeiro, sorry, at 43 minutes and 49 seconds. So pretty similar to the first round. So they were pretty even, I would say, in the difficulty between the snow leopard and the lion. So I did do the Boreal one once I got home. And yeah, I did that in 1 hour 26:32 minutes, which was only slightly faster than the Hope, the line one, which is, my time was 1 hour 28 minutes and 27 seconds. Yeah, so there really wasn't much to it. Even though I did do the Boreal one a little bit faster, it actually felt more chaotic. I found that I couldn't get all of the edge. A lot of it was disjointed. I was jumping around. I pretty much knew that I was going to finish with the fur of the snow leopard there. But yeah, it just did not come together. It felt more chaotic than when I did the lion. So go figure, I guess. What else about that one? So yeah, my time got me 95th in that solo qualifier, and so that meant that I qualified for the final, which is yay, because I went to this competition thinking I might not even qualify. There's a lot of fast people there and I'm pretty average. So I thought, well, there's a big possibility. So I was thrilled that I qualified for the final, because if I'm going to fly nearly 3,000 kilometers to the other side of the country, I want to get as much of experience out of this event as I possibly can. So that meant like doing all of the races. So I achieved that, which is great. What wasn't great is that the fact that I finished it so close to the 1.5 hours meant that I was going to cut it very close with the solo final, because in that one you only had 1.5 hours to finish. And one thing that hasn't happened to me yet is not finishing a puzzle during the allotted time of a race. So there was the possibility. So the possibility of that happening also meant that I kind of knew that I wasn't going to come even middle of the range of the leaderboard. But I kind of put that out of my mind for the time being. I was just relieved that I actually got into the solo. So yeah, so after that, had a little bit of a break, and then in the afternoon we had the teams race. Now, the thing about teams race is that it can, unless you have dedicated team, like you have team members who can travel and do these races with you, which is difficult. Not everyone has the finances, not everyone has the time off work, and they have, responsibilities at home, family, animal companions, what have you. So my team for nationals was different than my WA team, Pure Chaos, where we came second in our state competition. So for this race, I had Marcus, my partner, with me, of course, but we also had Emily and Ash. Now, Emily and I have been interacting quite a bit on Instagram. She lives in Queensland. Ash was only new to me on Instagram, and she lives in, I think, New South Wales. So we had 3 different states in this one team, and none of us have puzzled with each other before, which makes it tricky. Emily and I did discuss sort of styles and tactics, and how many trays we're going to use, what sort of trays we're going to use, who's going to do what, and a little bit with Ash as well. And then we had like a last minute sort of tactics talk before the race. But it is quite difficult to puzzle with people that you've in a race that you've never practiced with before. But it funnily enough worked quite well. I actually found the new rules came in and included how many trays you were allowed to use. The rules were quite generous in the size of the trays, but not the number of trays. So it'd be interesting to see if they come into play in the state competitions, but in the nationals, we had to do a bit of a compromise. So anyway, the puzzle that we got was a 1000 Ravensburger called Street Market, which we have never seen before. It looks like a UK design. It did come with a poster, which was great because it meant that we could have the box lid on one side and the poster on the other side for the, you know, the other two people that they could refer to it. So I really like that. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention is that during the solo, the dogs do come with a poster. Only silly me, just in the rush of opening it and putting it up and what have you, I didn't notice that there was a poster, and it fell on the ground underneath the table and it got a little bit mangled. So yeah, I only discovered it once I actually finished and I was packing it up. So oops. It would have been handy because in the box, the Ravensburger logo there actually obscures this little meerkat looking creature down there, and that I found that a bit frustrating, that I couldn't quite see what was going on there. But anyway, listen, but maybe yeah, posters, don't notice them. But anyway, back to the teams one. So yeah, busy image, but I believe it was a doable in a team environment. There was lots of patterns. It was really colorful. I think pretty much right from the get-go, I remember Ash saying that she wanted to work on the flowers and the greenery up here on the top. I was doing a lot of sorting to start with, pulling out like awning pieces that had some writing on it, and there's quite a bit of sort of tartan and check here as well, and some solid sort of colors of the clothing on the people. So I was what I would call feeding pieces to people quite a bit, and then as we got going, I started putting pieces in as well. And yeah, it came together quite well. I was quite happy where we had sat because we were sort of on an edge, on a barrier. We weren't sort of crowded in with people surrounding us. So that was nice. And so, yes, we found that we actually worked really well together, and we even had quite a few laughs as we were puzzling. So I just find teams incredibly enjoyable. There's less pressure. You want to do well, you want to sort of keep up with your teammates, but there's just something really good about working with people towards a common goal there. So yeah, I really enjoyed that race, and yeah, the puzzle itself was nice. But the winners, surprise, surprise, not, was the Aussie All-Stars, and they finished it in an amazing 34 minutes and 30 seconds, which is just crazy, because I found that, you're crossing over hands and, you sort of get in each other's way a little bit because it's so detailed. But yeah, that's an amazing time. Now, our time, I'm really proud of. We did it in under an hour at 58 minutes and 4 seconds, which put us 22nd out of 150 teams. So we were thrilled. We were thrilled about that. It was such a sort of exciting moment when we finished and discovered our placing. Yeah, and just the fact that we worked so well together and we really enjoyed each other's efforts there. So that went beautifully. So that was a great way to end what was day one, of the 2 days of this event. So day two. Now, day two started off with the pairs race. And as I mentioned before, we had to do 2 Ravensburgers, 500 pieces back to back. And what was interesting about this one is that they had to be done in a specific order, and we had 2.5 hours to complete them, which meant an hour and 15 each. So Marcus and I, we have been practicing, and we were finding that these days we could do a puzzle as quickly as maybe about 50 minutes. Rarely it would take us an hour and 15. It would have to be a really, really hard one to push us that far. So, but yeah, it was an interesting proposal to do 2 back-to-backs. That's not something we've ever done. We do one and done. So yeah, the 2 that we got was the Hadlow ponies. Now the frustrating thing about this one is that I have a copy. I had a copy, and while I was practicing just solo at home, this one was staring at me in the face on the shelf right in front of me of where I practice, and I thought, I don't think they would choose this one. Surely not. It's really new. It's only just hit the market here in Australia, and I was thinking, I was running out of time. Basically, if I had time, I would have gotten around to doing it, but I ran out of time and I didn't do it. So, well, what can you do when you're practicing and you know it's not going to be new, unreleased puzzles? Then you could do heaps and you never really know whether, you know, it's the right one to do. So anyway, we started off with the Hadlow ponies. Marcus, he puzzles upside down, so we're across from each other. So we find that when that's the case, it's kind of easier for us to sort of work on the areas that's closest to us. So I worked on the flowers, on the water, the dogs below. Marcus started from the top with the skies and the trees there, and I think he was working on some of the buildings there, and I think we both kind of worked on the ponies themselves. Figured the ponies will probably come towards the end there. Funnily enough, I was struggling a bit with these pink and purple flowers on the side, and I kept having to sort of do a bit, go away, do something else, come back to them, and finally get them done. So yeah, we finished that one, and then we were had to do the second one, and it was a really nice surprise because it was this one. I think it's called Ocean Treasures by Sheena Pike, and this was used in the Canadian Nationals competition this year, which I had seen it, that it had been done, and there was quite a few in the Canadian Nationals that I wanted, and this was one of them. And this has not hit the stores here in Australia, so this was as good as almost being unpublished, because people would have seen it, but they would not have done it. I think it'd be pretty rare that anyone in Australia would have actually had a copy to do. So the fact that this was one of them, I was thrilled about. Now, underwater scenes are a little bit difficult, I find. This one wasn't too bad because it wasn't a lot of blue. There was a bit in the middle there. So, of course, because I was sitting the right way up and Marcus was upside down, I was working on the coral, which was much harder than it looked. Marcus worked on these palm trees up the top, and doing the actual turtles was quite challenging, including like the blue bit in the center was quite difficult as well. But we handled it pretty well. We worked together really well as well. It was nice and colorful. I really loved it. So the winners were no surprises again, Melissa Townsend and Rihanna Erickson, half of the Aussie All-Stars, they did it really quickly. So they basically finished both of them in 42 minutes and 35 seconds, which when you sort of halve it, it's kind of like it took them 21 minutes each, more or less, which is just crazy fast. So maybe they had done at least one of them before, who knows? I don't think it really matters with them whether they've done it before or not. Our time to finish both of them was 1 hour, 38 minutes and 37 seconds. So we did each in about 48 to 50 minutes, which is a really good time for us. I think the ponies took a little bit longer than the ocean one. I was really happy with the choices because they felt like they were quite equal in difficulty, yet they were two very different styles, designs. You know, you had your sort of country cottage fur and landscapey illustration, and then you had this very colorful underwater sort of scene. So they were quite different, but whoever chose them and put them together, they did a great job because I kind of felt in the level of difficulty they were quite even. If we were given a choice to do one, in what order to do, I really am not sure what I would have chosen. The fact that I hadn't done either one of them would have made it extra difficult. I think if I had done one of them, I probably would have gone with that one first. But anyway, we didn't get that choice. So in the end, Marcus and I, we came 104th out of 296 pairs. And we were really happy with that. It was just a really good outcome for us. Obviously, we would have been more excited if we made it into the top 100, but still. It turned out that about 55 pairs didn't finish both of their puzzles. It doesn't really surprise me is that I doubt many people, you know, have done them like back to back like that, and these were as good as new, no one's ever done them puzzles. So for Marcus and I to get that time for puzzles that we've never done is, I think we were quite happy. So yes, after that we had a little bit of a break. And of course the solo final was the final race, and it's the one that I was the most nervous about, to be honest. Yeah, it was going to be an unreleased puzzle. We knew that much. And we were, a lot of people were contemplating what could it be. And we thought perhaps it's one that was specifically designed and made for the Australian competition. That's not an assumption that I think came true, because we were sort of thinking, well, if that was the case, then I suppose it could be an Australiana sort of theme. Who knows, something like the postcard series. Maybe it was like, I don't know, Sydney Opera House or Uluru or some other Australian icon, and then done in the style of, you know, those postcard series. Maybe something like that. Who knows? Who knew? But that wasn't the case. I think what it was that it is a new, unpublished, unreleased puzzle, but just one that was chosen that we could do, and then after we've had our nationals, it will be released around the world. And the rumor is that it will be released in March. And the one I'm talking about is this one called Summer Love, and the artist is Henriette Chingalia, and yeah, that's it. Now, oh dear, yeah. Now, we did have some time before, when we opened the bag, and then before we started, we could sit there for a few minutes studying the image. And then I looked at it and I was thinking, yeah, this is going to be challenging. I tried to sort of study the different components. I kind of knew straight away that I was going to start with the red truck that stood out the most, and so that's what I did. But that red truck, it gave me more trouble than I was expecting. It just didn't come together easily for some reason. There is some fur here with the dogs, but there's not a lot of fur. I mean, they are the same color, so there was a bit of which dog is which, but not so bad. I very much found that this puzzle was a puzzle that you did from the top down. So start with the red truck, maybe do the dogs, but you've got like these mountains here, which are like these purple, blue colors. You've got this pinkish yellow sky. There's a bit of greenery here, but you know, that's quite discernible with the different sort of bright green shades there with the trees. You had the ducks and the, is it swans? Looks like swans anyway. The birds there. And then of course you had like the wooden pier there. Beyond that, that's when trouble starts. You had some purple flowers here, which is fine. I tried to get a few of the lotuses there, and there's all this green. There's a lot of green. There's a bit of different texture to the green, but there's a lot of green. And I found myself working down, doing all of that there. It's when I got to the lily pads and that water, apart from that sort of yellowy sun reflected part, which is different color, I found this water lilies part the hardest, and that's where I ended up finishing. I struggled with that, and yes. Well, I'll get back to that. So the winner was, I think it's Melanie Dietrich, and she did it in an amazing 36 minutes and 11 seconds, which is just crazy for something that we haven't even laid eyes on before. And coming second was Brie Ribeiro at 36 minutes and 24 seconds. So there wasn't a lot in it between first and second place. They were hot on each other's heels there. Now my time was 1 hour, 27 minutes and 2 seconds, which put me 253rd out of 297 participants. Now my thoughts on that is not great. Let me explain. So where I was seated was towards the middle, getting on towards the back few rows. So they sort of obviously put people who were faster than me to my right, and the people who were slower than me to my left as I was seated. And so I already knew that I would be a little bit further down the track because of my time in the solos was about 1.5 hours. Now, my time for this puzzle was actually faster than my solo time, but only just by a bit. There was a lot of people finishing within a minute before me, so there was a lot, and that was putting quite a lot of pressure for me because I felt when I had those last few pieces in, I was struggling. That water was doing my head in. I was like, it was fighting me every step of the way trying to finish this damn puzzle. So I had, at one point, I thought, well, I've got to take my headphones off. So I looked around and I thought, oh, okay, there's not many people left. I looked at the time and I thought, oh, I've got about 5 minutes. Can I do it? I really wanted to finish on time because, yeah, I have never not finished one and in a race. So I would have been really disappointed if I hadn't. So I took my headphones off because I had noise cancelling headphones on. So I took them off so I could hear, because I didn't want them to say stop and then I'm still going. But I had a timekeeper hanging around near me. And honestly, that's kind of like having a teacher looking over your shoulder. But in this case, it didn't feel that way. Kind of felt like a bit of silent moral support at that stage. It turned out that there was about 35 people after me, something like that. Anyway, so I wasn't there on my own, but you can imagine this big sort of space, all these empty tables, and you've got a bank of people sitting there on this tiered sort of wall of seats watching you, and then you don't know what's happening with the live stream. Are they focusing on you? Are they, who knows? I didn't know what was going on. I just wanted to finish, and I finished it in time, and I was relieved to finish. I was pleased to finish my puzzle on time. Was not thrilled the fact that I came 253rd. In itself, an hour 27 minutes on a puzzle I've never seen before. It took when I was practicing, I found that the easier puzzles were fine. I was finishing them around the hour mark, maybe hour 15 at the most. If they were kind of difficult, I was getting to the hour 20 to the even more than an hour 30. So yeah, for myself, I think I did well. For a nationals solo final, I wasn't thrilled. I had to remind myself that I beat a whole heap of other people to get into the solo, and there were still people that I beat in the solo final. So there is that. So, final thoughts on the Australian Nationals 2025. Overall, I did enjoy the event. I loved that it was over 2 days instead of one. There was more opportunities to puzzle because of the qualifier in solos. So there was, that possibility you weren't going to get into the final, which had been pretty disappointing for anyone who was traveling interstate for that to happen, but that's the risk you take. I was not thrilled about the location being in Melbourne again. I think the Australian Jigsaw Puzzle Association does want to be inclusive, but I find having the nationals in the same city 2 years in a row is not inclusive. There were quite a few West Australians who went, but not nearly as many as you would think. Well, you wouldn't think many really, because 3,000 kilometers is a lot, and airfare within Australia is not cheap. Even if you go with the cheaper airlines, it's still not that cheap, and then you have to pay for accommodation and food, and it adds up. So there's quite a lot of people who basically can't go, whereas the locals, the people who live in Melbourne, they're a bit spoilt in the fact that they can go each year, and all it costs them is a bit of parking and the entry fees to the event. So I think if it's going to be a national thing, I think it does need to rotate to different places. I would love to see it in Perth. Do I think it's likely? Probably not. But at least then, if you are traveling to go to these things, if it's in another city, then you can make a holiday out of it and see a different place. I have been to Brisbane and Sydney, but all I've seen is the airports. And Tasmania I've never been to. Adelaide I haven't been to for ages. So really, just do it somewhere else, please. I know that might be easier for the organisers to have like a dedicated venue because they use the same venue. But I don't think it's that unreasonable, considering we have state competitions in different venues, and people from the committee have flown to our state ones to help sort of run and organise. So I think it's doable. And Melbourne, what can I say about Melbourne? While we were there, it was cold. We even had hail. We had a hailstorm. We're talking like getting on late spring, early summer, and it was hail, and it was so cold. Also, the night before the competition, where a lot of people were flying in, there was a fire at the airport. And I do know for a fact that there's some participants had to be evacuated, and they had to stand outside the airport for 4 hours before they could go back in and get their luggage. Do know of some West Australian participants who their flight got cancelled and they missed the start of the competition. It got cancelled by one of the sort of more budget airlines, and they couldn't get a new a replacement flight. They had to totally book something else. So yeah, cold, hail, fire at the airport. Oh, and there was a protest and a counter protest in the city centre of Melbourne, which was fun. So that was happening on the Sunday, and obviously a lot of interstate people were staying in the city centre accommodation, and then had to battle their way through that to get to this venue, which was outside of the city centre, just south of it. But then the troubles didn't stop, because on that Sunday as well, apart from the protests and what have you, we also had there was a fun run going on, and there was road closures of the roads around the venue. That was early in the morning, and luckily we just timed it so we arrived when the roads were open, but it caused so much trouble with parking. Parking was an utter nightmare at this venue on the Sunday, because you had all these people who were just hanging on after this fun run. It was awful. We didn't have the option of taking public transport, because where we were staying with family, they lived quite far out, and the only way we could get to this venue and not take 2.5 hours with public transport was really to drive. So yeah, it wasn't great. Let me just say, no. I did love that the stalls and the other activities were upstairs, because that left the downstairs area to be dedicated to the race, the actual races, so things weren't like congested. I didn't like that we had to study the puzzle beforehand. Well, we don't have to, but I mean the fact that you sat there and you getting nervous and you open the bag and we sit there staring at this puzzle for a while before we're told we can go, because I'm terrible at planning. I look at a puzzle and I go, okay, I'm going to start that. I'm going to do that. I mean, looking at the solo one, I did look at the red truck and thought, well, yeah, okay, I'll start that. But, if you gave us a few seconds, you could glance at it and go, okay, red truck, let's go. You didn't need to sit there for a couple of minutes staring at this. And, I find that I'm terrible for like planning. And then when I open it and the pieces are before me, different things jump out to me. So to me, I just want to open it and go. I'll look at it as I'm flipping and pulling out edges and what have you. I just don't think that, sitting there looking at it. And then it's not consistent. I've got to say, open, go, or open, stare at it, and then go. I've been to state ones where it's been one, then it's been the other next year. There just doesn't seem to be any consistency of which approach they're allowing participants to do for this. So there is that. Overall, I did like the puzzles that were chosen. Like I said, I'm not a fan of the dolks in general, not really my style, but they were not boring. They were colourful. They were challenging, as they should be for a national, but they weren't super hard that I got frustrating, because I've seen some international competitions where you're going, really, that's what you have to do? Ugh. Anyway, the pairs doing two 500s back to back was a fun twist. Love it. Love to see that happening again. The teams, the only disappointment I had with the teams was the fact that on the leaderboard that you'll see in the association site, all you got is the team names. You don't have the names of the individuals in the teams, not even for the top 3 winning teams. You don't have their names. And that happened in the state competitions as well. And there's not even a state. I think the team that came 3rd was from South Australia, but they had South Australia in their name, so you knew. But then the others, you go, well, where are they from? Even just if they're from multiple states, that's fine. Just put the abbreviation of their state with a slash and then the next one and so on. Just at least give us that. But yeah, that was a little bit, disappointing that we didn't have that level, of information for teams. So the fact that there was a solo qualifier, I understand why there were qualifiers. There's more people, want to participate, and it's having 300 in one race is a lot, but they effectively had 600 people doing, between the 2 qualifiers thereabouts. So, I think it's trying to give everyone a go at doing nationals, which I think is good. And so I understand why it's, that was the way it was. And it was great that it was an unreleased puzzle in general. I think this is the first time that's happened for Australia. You'll notice that there was no Ravensburger bags at all. They sponsored this event, but we never get the bags that you see, in North America or Europe. We just sort of get left out in regards to that. The only other sort of gripe I have in regards to doing the commentating, it would have been nice if I was told when I was going to do it, if I was pre-warned. I mean, it was a privilege, and thank you so much for letting me do it. I did it at WA state final and I loved it. But also, I think my name wasn't up on the screen at all. Heidi's was, but I was up there for quite a while commentating, and even though Heidi introduced me, my name did not appear on the screen at any time whatsoever. So that was a little bit disappointing as well. And people tune in and they go, well, who's this other person? They have no idea. So yeah, that was a little bit disappointing. Now, would I go again? Depends. Probably not. And I'll tell you why. And that's because if it's in Melbourne again, no, I'm not going to Melbourne 3 years in a row. If it's in another city, maybe. If it's in Perth, hell yeah, I'll be there. But even though I sort of enjoy the teams and I enjoy the pairs, I find the solo is very high pressure. I think people are getting much faster. I didn't do that well. I knew I was average, and that is proof that I was average. And it just felt a little bit demoralizing, being in that position, where you have heaps of people looking at you, possibly cameras, who knows, lots of empty tables, what have you. Yeah, it's just, I don't think I would be spending so much money and time to go over there if I wasn't really like faster. Would I be doing speed puzzling in general? Yes. I will be hopefully going to next year's West Australian competition. Yep. Smaller local races. Yep. Online races, probably the teams more. I enjoy them more. But nationals, maybe not. If it was sort of, if I didn't have to spend so much money and time going to the other side of a very large country, yeah, I'll probably give it a miss. So I am glad that I went. And I did have a fun time, but for me it was the people, obviously, and the puzzles. So my times, whatever. So if you went, I would love to hear what you thought about the competition. What did you think about the puzzles? How did you go? Please pop a comment down below and let me know. So if you enjoyed this wrap up of this this event, please hit the like button and please consider subscribing. I think I got quite a few other subscribers after the event, but if you're on the fence about it, you know, I would love it if you subscribed. It really does help out my channel to grow and for other people to see it. You know how the YouTube algorithms are, you know, they're a law into themselves. So every like, comment, and subscribe helps. So that is it from me, and I will catch you next time. See ya.